All right, it's 6 o'clock. We're going to call this meeting, special business meeting to order, the Tokerville City Council today. First of all, we'll hear from Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Councilman Williams, and Councilman Bringhurst will offer us a prayer.
Oh, yeah.
Please follow me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, thank you so much for all that was done for us. Thank you for this beautiful valley in which we get to live and for the opportunities which we have to serve the citizens who live here. Father, we'd ask that as we meet this evening that we'll be able to listen and to hear what the citizens of Tokerville have to say, and that we'll be able to plot a course which will be in the best interest of Tokerville City. That we'll be able to be prepared and able to move forward and be able to meet the needs that are coming to us. Father, we're grateful for all that was done for us. We ask, we pray that thy Spirit will guide us and direct us, that we'll be able to make wise and righteous decisions. And we do so in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you. Okay. Purpose of tonight's meeting is to hold a public hearing on the subject of a proposed property tax increase for the city of Tokerville. And before we go into taking public comment on that, and that's why we're here tonight, so we'd love to hear from you. As a city council and as the mayor and as employees of the city, we also live here and pay property taxes. So this is not a pleasant thing for us. The only reason that we propose to do this kind of thing is because the city is in need of financial help to do some of the things that we have to do in order to make sure that services are rendered to the people that live here. So with that in mind, what the people you're looking at up here, as far as I know, are honest. We get accused of a lot of things on Facebook, but doesn't everybody? I have to tell you that I take that very personally when that happens, and I don't say anything because we're not supposed to, so we don't. But and I know that's not why you folks are here tonight. You're here to be heard, and we're here to listen to you. Just realize that we're in this with you. It's not an us and them, it's a we, and we'd like to hope that you feel that way, at least somewhat. And I know it looks like us against them sometimes, but it's really not. We're trying to do what's best for the city of Tokerville, for the residents and people that live here. With that said, I would like to turn some time over to Dana at this time to kind of present the whole idea behind the tax increase, where it's going to go, what the budget looks like, and why we need to do this. So with that, Manning.
Could you zoom in a little bit more? Thank you.
That is better.
Okay, so in May,
You need a microphone, Dana. Yeah.
So in May, we went over the budget and looked at our revenues and expenditures. And we went line by line. Candace from Hinton and Burdick, she's amazing. She helped me with really actually creating my first budget. And in doing so, we noticed that we needed $36,675 of an increase of property taxes to balance the proposed budget. You take your expenditures and your revenues, and then you find out what's needing. And since we don't have tax revenue per se, we don't have a gas station, we have a post office and a fantastic city hall. We do have some bed and breakfasts and some small businesses, but for the most part, we don't have a high base tax revenue. So I created, you can see over here, the prior budget actual, the current budget, and this was the current year to date as of 5/21, because we had to pass the tentative budget. And then you guys all got a notification in the mail that looked a little something like this from the county. Come on. Come on. Alrighty, here we go. The county provided what the basic residence is in Tokerville from valuations and what that medium valuation of your home is for a $389,000 residence. You would pay $258.45. And so the increase for property taxes is $25.03 per year, not per month, not per week, a year, which I think is pretty conservative. And it also gives a business increase. The last time we did truth in taxation last year, we increased it by a total of $82,276, and this year we are increasing it $36,675. And so if you look at certified tax rates of other jurisdictions near Tokerville, you can see that our mill levy tax rate is 0.001325. And I've provided other cities, and it's kind of this is what the current levy is. It would be what we adopt. Yes, yes. And I think we're the only one that did truth in taxation this year. I was able to log on to the tax website and get, because they've already approved all their budgets. So Zoom. And comparing tax rates from Tokerville to Laverton or to Virgin or Enterprise is kind of relative, but it's kind of, you're comparing fruits, but you're kind of comparing apples and oranges because they have different level of services for their cities and they have different needs. And so that's why the budgeting process is so important, because you don't want to over budget your revenues, because then if you don't get that revenue, then you're lacking in your expenditures. So there's a balance there, and you don't want to over project your expenses because then you're taxing your citizens unnecessarily. So I think the budget that we proposed that was on the website of the tentative budget was a conservative and reasonable budget. So last year, we increased the overall budget of the general fund from, hold on. Last year we budgeted $1,215,625, and this year we're budgeting $1,326,475. Are there any questions? It's $36,675. So it's not quite as much as we increased it last year. Last year was like 82, and this year's 36. So
Fill in a little bit that comes to mind. Last year when we did this, we hadn't had a tax increase for 13 years prior. Obviously costs go up, all kinds of things, everything raises. And we hadn't raised our tax levy for 13 years. We actually proposed a larger increase and ended up taking that back down a ways due to public input from this meeting that we had last year, and didn't do everything that we thought we needed to do for this year. This year we've done a couple of things with that money. One of them is give health benefits to our employees. We're trying to keep our employees. We have good people. We pay money to get them trained. They're constantly, I will tell you, if there's poaching attempted on the part of other organizations and government and other cities locally to try to get our people. So it's a it is absolutely a competition to keep good people working for us. So that's part of what we did last year with that money. Also, this year, we have seen phenomenal increases in the price of materials for what we do. And that's no secret to anybody. Everybody's heard that. You know, what's happened to lumber, what's happened to asphalt, what's happened to cement, concrete, you know, all of those things that we use constantly have raised dramatically. And, you know, I don't know if the end's in sight. I don't know if it's going to gradually go back down, but I've got a pretty good idea it's never going to get back down to where it was. Why would they do that as long as we're still buying it? So there's a lot of reasons for $36,000 extra in our budget for next year, but that's one of them, is trying to keep up with the cost of gasoline, the cost of materials that we use in order to keep water in the taps and asphalt on the roads throughout the city. You probably know more about that than I do.
Nailed it.
Okay. Any other comments or statements from the city council before we go to public comment?
Part of last year's significant increase that we were asking for, we cut that in half on the premise that we were going to do the best we could to live with that reduction, and then have a truth and taxation meeting this year to see if we needed any additional. So I hope it was not a surprise to anyone, because last year, I see a lot of you were here last year when we decided to scale back considerably. We postponed hiring a city manager for some time in order to cut some expenses. And so this proposed increase is very minor compared to what the reduction was last year.
Anybody else?
Mayor, I would like to
Yes.
just thank Dana. She's done a great job.
She has.
She feels a lot of pressure, and I don't blame her. I feel a lot of pressure too, but thank you. I think you're doing a great job at maintaining or balancing the figures and budget categories and so forth. So thank you.
Who else? All right, then with that, we will turn the time over for public hearing, for public input. If you would step to the microphone. 3 minutes per person.
Manning Butterworth, 1643 South Rimview Drive. Costs have increased. I've just recently received a property valuation from the county. So my home value is increased, has been increasing actually for the last several years, kind of linearly, and the slope is fairly steep. And new homes are being built, so people are moving in. So how do those two things, to what degree do those two things, the increase in home values and the number of new homes that are being built in Tocqueville, how do those two things compensate for the increase in costs? Can you show some kind of comparison? Thank you.
Income, I think, is what you're talking about. And
No, you were mentioning that the city's costs for the services that it provides have increased. Both personnel costs and materials costs have increased. So my question is, to what degree do the home value increases and the numbers of new homes that are being built in Tocqueville, to what degree do those meet or partly meet the increased costs? Is that clear? Is it making sense? Okay.
start. I think we were talking in our meeting this morning, and we had 28 new homes last year. So on the average, it was $25 that we would be receiving an increase per home. So 30 of them would be what, $750? I think my math is reasonably close. Additional income. So you don't get a lot of additional tax income coming back in. As far as the actual cost to the city, you know, we had a major water line break for example, down on Mulberry. Was this 8-inch line, I believe? Yeah, a big buried line. And it's typical really of a lot of the water lines that we have in the city, because it was in the neighborhood of 25 years old, Lance. Yeah, old water line. They get brittle, the earth moves, everything happens and they break. And when a line like that breaks and we have to dig it up and then replace that big PVC pipe with new PVC pipe that has gone up how much in the last
Double.
year? What's that?
It's double.
Double the price for the PVC pipe, plus the asphalt that has to go down on the street afterwards, the cement and everything that has to be done, let alone the employee cost. Just the materials alone for that job were a lot of money. So our costs, not necessarily relative to the new homes that are being built. I mean, that ideally should bring us some income to the tune of about $750 a year.
Actually, Mayor, can I speak on that briefly?
Yeah, please do.
So the way the Utah code is written, when there's more homes added, it doesn't increase the tax pool that the city has. In other words, for example, today, or whatever the tax rate is, if that results in $1 million to the city total, 3 years down the road, all the city gets still is $1 million. It doesn't allow for expansion of revenue just because you have more homes to service. That's not the way the ridiculous tax code of Utah is. And I hope our legislators hear that, because I think it's a ridiculous law. But so all we get is $1 million no matter what, no matter how much we grow. So adding on more homes, what that does really is effectively lower the rate that everyone else has to pay, because it's spread around 28 additional homes, but there's no more additional funds that come to the city. That's a bone of contention for me, because if we're growing, we have more people that use the roads, that want to use the parks. We have more people that need different services, and yet we're still stuck with the same dollar amount. We're capped at that no matter how many people move here, unless we annually do a truth in taxation like this. So that's why we're here again, because we're saying, look, man, the costs just keep going up. Materials keep going up every year. And especially, last year, the pandemic, we said, let's be careful. And so, okay, now the pandemic seems to lift a little bit. And what's happened? The cost of materials and labor have skyrocketed. It's like, okay, well, this was not anticipated last year when we agreed to keep it relatively low. They've just gone up, in some cases exponentially, which is really frustrating from the city's perspective, because we got to go buy that stuff. We got to replace it. We got to fix the pipe, but we don't have the money to do it. Where are we going to get the money? Well, and in Tocqueville, we have one revenue stream. Well, two. One is the water, and two is taxes on homes. But you can see by the increase, it's not very much at all.
So follow up to that, if the property values increase, let's say 10%, from year to the next, does that $1 million increase 10%?
No. All we get is $1 million. Period, end of story. That's it. It never goes up, no matter how much
the taxation to change it.
Right. Truth and taxation. This form is what has to happen. We have to increase the levy rate to get more revenue. That's the only way. That's why you can see my frustration. Well, if property values go up, shouldn't the city have more fun? No, we don't get an extra penny. Or if we have 1,000 homes built, do we get more money? Nope, not an extra penny. We have to do this every single year before the city can have additional resources available to cover its expenditures. And we do our dangness to keep the cost down, because I don't want to pay more in taxes. I live here too. And poor Dana, she is inundated because everybody needs something. And her response is, well, where are we getting the money, guys? It can't come out of thin air. We've got to do truth and taxation. So we're doing a modest one here for, what is the total increase? 36,000?
675.
Yeah, that's, honestly, it ought to be 336,000 is what we really need as a city. But we'll find a way to get by with as little as we can and then find some creative ways to not finance, because I don't want any debt, but creative ways to find money in other places to cover what we need to have covered.
So just in addition to what Keene just said, or in addendum to what Keene just said, we did not bring in $1 million in taxing last year.
No, I was using this
That
hypothetical.
was a number pulled out of the air.
Yeah, that was a total
Okay.
budget. The dollar amount is what I meant, the total budget, not the increase. No, we, thanks for that clarification.
Did that help, Manny?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
So I saw a large increase in employee benefits across the board on this. It's Tyler Barton, 12 South Tocqueville Boulevard. Thank you. I saw a large increase in employee benefits. Will you please justify that?
Year before last, we didn't have any. So the reason we went after, one of the major reasons we went after truth in taxation, a tax increase last year, so that we could initiate health benefits to our employees. What's that?
Is it just health benefits or what's the breakdown?
It's just health benefits. And retirement wasn't
Part of the URS.
wasn't part of the truth in taxation, right? But they do have a retirement through the state of Utah.
The benefits as they're stated on the budget include a URS, we are part of the URS retirement
Okay.
system, and health insurance.
Health insurance.
And it's competitive now to what Hurricane or Lavercan or the water district is like. Is that right?
The benefits are, the wages are competitive with Walmart. Sorry, but the beginning wages are not competitive at this point. And we have problems with that, trying to keep people.
Gary Lott, 22 West Fuller Lane. The proposed budget, I understand, started, on May 21st. I got a printout from Dana today, and thank you, that shows actual expenses for 2000, for the year ending in June. Okay, when I compare that to the budget, this is just for the general fund, not the water, the enterprise funds. Because some of the talk had to do, we've already affected water rates. So this is just for the general fund and the others. Our budget is $1,326,472. Last year, we brought in $1,427,396. This is per our actual accounting records. That is the budget proposed $100,921 less revenue coming in. Let's look at expenditures for the general fund. The budget is $1,326,475, our budget. What was spent last year? $1,025,606. A difference or an increase of $250,000, $250,869. Certainly, we can find $36,000 because our revenue is understated for actual what we received in the year just ended. Over 100,000. Our budget is less than that. When you add those together, that's over $351,000 of increase. We can do better than that.
That sounds pretty good.
Lumber is going down.
That's the whole idea.
No. This is our proposed budget for 2000, ended 2022. So we are proposing to spend an additional $250,000. That's what this budget is right now that was approved. And I realized that y'all didn't have the final figures for the year, But now that we do, when we use those figures, our revenue was understated over 100,000. Our expenses are increasing $250,000. We can't, I mean, when you look at Leeds, or not Leeds, but Laverican, they have 2 hotels. So that's why their rate is so much lower than ours. We are like a 1-income family trying to keep up with the 2-income family. My time's up. But I think we need to just say no to any increase and look why we've got $350,000 increase.
Do we have that in the bank?
Go ahead, Ken.
So I have a couple comments.
You need to, yeah.
Sorry. A couple things. So we try as best we can to look at year over year comparisons, but like any town, there's going to be years you have projects and there's going to be years that you don't. And the other thing that's really, sorry.
Our CPA auditor for the city. So she is here helping us prepare the budget and has all the answers.
Whew. So I'm not actually your auditor because I'm not independent. So we just come in and do accounting assistance for governments, budgeting, third-party reconciliations to be good stewards of your funds. So 2020, we received over $100,000 in COVID money. And that money is earmarked and has to be spent a certain way, and we try to utilize it the best we can to make efficiency improvements such as express bill pay and things like that have happened for automation, which cuts back on potentially and hopefully employee hours and things like that. So there are opportunities where you can compare year over year, but sometimes that's not a fair comparison. As far as the difference between like your total expenses, actual revenue, actual, and your total expenses, actual, you will find that there'll be a few adjustments that are made by the auditor that could bring those numbers a little closer. And then I'm a conservative and I probably project that here as well when I do budgeting. And that's I don't like to count my chickens before my eggs are hatched. So if your mill levy rate is based on historical payment, good payment history. If anything, I bet this year will bring a much lower payment history potentially, as far as like percentage of actual households in Tocqueville that end up paying timely their property taxes. And I'm not saying that, but like there's cash-strapped people this year, probably even more than last year, just because stimulus has stopped and things like that. So even though we may project a mill levy, that is just an expected amount. And if you end up with a lot of delinquent accounts, that number could drop really fast. Hopefully that helps a little bit.
Thank you. Sorry I got your title wrong. Didn't mean to call you an auditor. That's kind of a bad word. Anyone else?
You have a $4 million extra?
They're projecting to spend $250,000 in the 22 budget than actually was spent in 2014.
So I think something to be mindful of that is a single project that can be budgeted for can easily spend that money. For example, road repairs, water line repairs, improvements out that we need to do at damage reduction.
Water repairs
So
is not in the general fund.
not all. Some of those items have to come out of the general fund. Not 100% of water comes out of the water fund. When we do a water line replacement, we have water line replacement, we have streets, and we have storm drain. So it all comes from these other places as well. It's not just one bucket that it's drawn from. So just keeping in mind that there is potential, like probably some of the items that are budgeted for are projects projected for this upcoming year. We haven't done a street project in 5 years outside of maintenance. We haven't done really a water line project since the Heights. No, it wouldn't be the Heights. It would have been Old Church or Hillside and Cotton Gin. So, part of it is we have projects that we've got to do because we have been holding back trying to get some of these things done. So that affects it as well. Right now, we have projects that have to happen at Anderson Junction. We have 2 major projects at Anderson Junction. We have a project in Choya Creek that has to be done to save that asphalt and the drainage in Choya. We have a connection road at Anderson Junction so that we can get UDOT to move forward with interchange improvements. We have a water project to pull the people at Anderson Junction off an inferior well and put them onto the Tocqueville City system.
Left turn lane on Choya
Left
Creek.
turn lane at Choya Creek, or turning lane. The extension of Pecan, is that the right one right here, Lance? And Ash Creek. It's like it is a small budget, so we're trying to just gently pick what we can as we can go, but the budget does fluctuate based on what we have allocated to try to do in that year. So just be mindful of that. I think part of it is be aware that there is items that, are going to change it, and some years cost more than others.
And we did get a PIP, which we're not going to get, planning and zoning administration fee as a revenue, which we're not completed that again, so. Unexpected revenues, it looks a little tricky, because we're not going to get those yet.
The property tax revenue that's projected for this year came through at 208, and we're just looking at 236 on that particular line item. That's where the increase is coming from, that particular line item.
We actually collected 212. So that's going to be a $24,000 increase in property.
My year-to-date is different than your year-to-date, Gary, because you got it today. Yeah, I understand. That's what I'm saying. You got an updated one. I have one that's from a couple of months back, so I'm off $3,000 from you.
And we did get taxes from prior years that were delinquent as well. So people decided to pay some of their property taxes this year that were required. So that's the difference as well.
Real quick, one thing, Gary, I don't want to bring up your argument, but you kind of posed yourself, because we do not have 2 hotels or a gas station or anything in Laverne. So what I'm saying is, we don't have those things, so property taxes have to go up. So anyways, we have no revenue income. If we need to do roads, we need to do these things, it has to come from property tax, parts of it. So just to,
Well, do we need parks?
Yes,
Do we need trails?
yes, we do.
I ride bikes. I can go to another city if I want to ride
Okay.
a trail. But
I don't want to argue that we think these are the things we want to provide in the city. These are the things that people in the city want to have in the city. If you don't, I'm trying not to get,
Well, I think if
argumentative, but if you don't like it, go to another city.
Well, okay, just a second. What I'm saying is, we don't know about these projects. If they were laid out, then we could say, yeah, okay, we understand that, but we're just seeing we're seeing the increase.
Right.
And
There's an
that's
increase.
what I'm asking for more disclosure on.
They're on Dan Catlin, 821 South Peach Street. I'm probably on the other side of this for most of the people. Sitting in on all the city council meetings and hearing where the costs are going out that aren't expected. Over by my place right now, I've got one of your trucks broken down, that lost the rear main. I've seen the backhoe that doesn't look very good. With the equipment we have, with the infrastructure we have, my concern is, and hearing the people that want services, the one man that wants his road paved because it's a city street and it's a dirt road that we keep saying we'll look at, is, are you comfortable that the 36 is, with what's coming up with our infrastructure, is enough?
Increase that this year, so.
Well, that's just my concern over watching the last year on the equipment.
But when we did the budget, we thought it was, and then we've had a lot of new discoveries since the budget was prepared.
And say good luck.
We need it.
My name is Todd Sands. I'm at 409 East Zion Trail North. I'm one of the new houses for 2021. So what Councilman Ellsworth said, I'm just trying to understand the truth in taxation. So my property tax bill, it lists Tokerville City, and it says my taxable value, and then it says I'm paying $395.64 that goes to Tokerville City. So, but that doesn't go to Tokerville City? Okay. So I'm confused then. Okay. Okay. But what I understood from Councilman Ellsworth is Tokerville City's set at $1 million. Well, no, for the, okay, so then I'm confused. Right. Okay, so,
That makes everybody else's taxes go down a
oh,
little.
so rather than Tokerville City's budget is increasing, everybody else's, okay, that's stupid. Sorry. Okay. Okay. All right, I understand. So, I mean, with everything that's going to happen in Anderson Junction, we're still not going to get.
Do truth in taxation again.
But it's going to cost us more and not the people coming in because we're not getting any more revenue, correct? Right.
So the bigger you, more people you have, the same amount of money costs everybody less money. But when you get
Right. But it's this, right. Okay.
So say in 10 years, we have $3,000, 3,000 more homes now than we do. If everybody paid what you're paying now, we'd have a lot bigger budget. If every
Correct. Correct.
to get that bigger tax base. Does that make sense? We have to say, okay, next year we need
Yeah.
300,000, we need 400,000.
Right. So we're spreading it over everybody that's in city of Tokerville.
Budget will get bigger.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
is that an
It's
easy
my
way to?
understanding too.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And to Gary's point, that is, we have no commerce. And I really
Right.
pray we get some good commerce in here over the next couple of years, because that will be an added revenue source that will ease the stress that the homeowners have, or that we as a city have, because then we'll finally get some commerce that provides that revenue. And we'll get there. But no one wants to, frankly, right? None of us want to grow. None of us we want to leave everything just the way it is. But that just is not reality. Putting our head in the sand would create more problems down the road. And frankly, we're dealing with some of those problems now, right? So, but we'll get there. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome to town.
Happy to be here.
Thanks for your donation.
Anita Eaton, 290 South Ash Creek Drive. I just wanted to state that I had a really good thought right there. Now it's gone. No, I was going to say, for those individuals who don't want this community to grow, and there are those that don't. And I totally understand that, why they don't want it to grow, because that's why they moved here. Except for those that moved here recently, they've just ruined it for those that were here before them. There was an individual who posted something, I think we should have a moratorium on building. I happened to look up public records. Their house was built in 2018. So I'm not sure when the gate should have been closed for everybody to come into this. I'm really thinking that maybe the gate should have been closed back in 2005, right after I showed up, but I guess I failed to latch it. I think that we need to remember, if we want a small bedroom community, which is now lost because we have the proposal of a bypass road coming in, and pretty soon that dirt's going to be turned, that is going to increase everything in this community. And then we will no longer have that bedroom community that we thought we really wanted. but we're so tired of driving someplace else to get our fuel, our groceries, our clothing, our anything. And who wants to always be dependent on online orders when we really need to get out of the house? And so I do, I appreciate the minimization that has gone into this taxes. If you really think about it, what is $24 basing it off of that one? In mine, it's almost $50 that I'm going to have to pay. Wow, how many cans of Coke can I not have my husband purchase to make up that $50? That's a pretty easy thing to do in order to live in a really nice community. And I really do appreciate that all that the council has done, and more importantly, those that work in the office. And that's all I have. Thanks for not turning on a timer.
The next person gets. Sorry.
Can I just, I just have something I want to offer. I sat in Hurricane, Saturday evening, I believe, and listened to the Utah Symphony. Had an incredible experience. I was born and raised in Hurricane. And I thought to myself that the town has really, and when I graduated from high school, there was under 2,000 people there. Now there's 25, 24, something like that, 1,000. It's changed drastically over the years, but I could still drive past the place where I grew up, the home that I grew up, and it's still a quiet neighborhood. And I'm not saying Hurricane has done everything right, don't get me wrong, but what I'm saying is that I think it's possible to have what we want and also have what we need, and allow for the needs of other people too, to develop and to do what they need to do. And that's the reason for the bypass road. That's one of the reasons, is to get the traffic out of this bedroom community that we have right here and put it in a place where it can be handled, and then to regulate how it's put in there so that we can have a little bit of the best of both worlds. But there is so much opportunity now for people to live in Hurricane, for children to come back and buy a home. Well, not buy a home, not right now, because you can't afford to buy a home anywhere, but to live there and to work. And I hope someday they have an opportunity to do the same thing here in Tocqueville without disturbing where my house is. And there's a lot of people that think they should have slammed the door just before I got here, so, but they didn't. Anyway, that's my tirade for them. Anybody else?
Sorry, just one more thing.
You bet.
You individuals up here are all elected, and we appreciate everything you do. Your city employees are not elected. And the last thing what I would hate to see is to get someone who's corrupt, is like a code enforcer, for example, and is a total Nazi out there. Now, this is going to sound really harsh to those who are city employees, but I am very wary about increasing benefits, increasing wages for city employees, because it looks like they could make it into a career. It turns into a bureaucracy that could become corrupt. So I'd just like you to consider those things going forward into the future. I understand you want to be competitive like Walmart. I understand that you want to hire good people for the city. I'm afraid that, especially with everything that's going on this last year, it would be very easily for someone with bad intentions to get a city job and then to be incentivized to stay within that position.
I think we need to realize too that city employees are subject to the discretion of the city council and the mayor. So if there are problems, we're here, we're elected to deal with those kind of things. So. But I appreciate your sentiment. I'd personally like to see a few people make Tocqueville a career. I don't have a problem with that. Anyone else? Okay. If there are no other comments, then we'll move on to the business section of this meeting, discussion and possible approval on proposed property tax rate increase. How do you feel about that discussion tonight?
I think we,
You can vote on it tomorrow if you guys want to think about it, but I don't need to think about it.
Start the discussion.
I don't know if I need a discussion. I'll make a motion. Motion that we approve the proposed tax increase of $36,675.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion?
do we need in the motion to include the exact rate or the dollar amount?
It's actually on the agenda for tomorrow. So we'll approve that to another date. Do you need that already?
I just don't know if that needs to be included in Justin's motion.
Yes, it's also on tomorrow's agenda.
Isn't that what's on the document that you gave me?
So you want to include that in your motion, Justin?
I will, pull it up. I pull it up.
Here you go.
Mill rate of 0.001325. And the proposal. And the
Okay, that's an
total amount is
amended, stands as an amended
36,675.
motion, then we need to, you okay with your second? All right. Any other discussion on the motion then as it stands current?
Hold on, Mr. Mayor. So in our backup docs, that's a different number in there. Is that because it's
It's all the taxes, including fire department and everything.
the one in the Dropbox, this is 2021 proposed disclosure notice rates.
That's all the taxes, and that's why.
That's all. This is just the total portion. Okay. All right. Thank you. I just want to clarification. Okay.
Okay, any other discussion?
You know, Mayor, the only thing I would like to say is I've now lived here since about 2003. And, you know, I drive through Laverton with all of its commerce, and I drive through Hurricane with all of its commerce, and I come through Tocqueville and I look around and think, we're doing a pretty damn good job. You know, we have nice streets, we have good staff, we have a lot of stuff that's taken care of, and it feels like you're in a nice place. And, you know, if I get to choose, no offense to anybody who lives in Laverton, I choose to live in Tocqueville, and we do it without commerce, and it's because we have citizens, and we manage our money really, really well. And we've done a good job trying to make sure that we are always progressing and taking care of what needs to be done, so we have a nice place to live. And, you know, I'm excited for the growth that's coming. I'm excited to have some commerce so that we can, you know, hopefully relieve that burden some. But it is amazing what we've been able to do with so little. And I'm just grateful that our staff has done a good job doing that and managing what we have.
I second that comment.
Good people. All right, no other discussion? I'll call for a vote. It'll be a roll call. Justin?
Yes.
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Okay.
I motion we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, any,
Second. You were on the top.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
What is that? 6:49. This meeting stands.
Since you rushed out of here.